Good morning, Greenstonians. It's hammer time. Did you know that over 80% of Greenstone employees work remotely from their home office, including me? One of the questions that I've gotten more and more from other BU leaders across Cultura and Valaris is, how do you manage across your organization with so many remote workers, and how do you keep everyone engaged? My first answer always comes down to, it starts with trust. If you don't trust your employees, then you've got a much larger problem than dealing with people across different geographies and time zones. But beyond that, it's a good question, and I do think that it requires everyone's participation and engagement. So I'm going to talk a little bit about a few things that I think are important for effectively managing yourself working in a remote environment. First of all, I think that you need to take advantage of all the different tools at your disposal. We have email, we have IM in the form of Skype, we have WebEx. I know other people are using tools like Slack. So whatever the different tools are available out there, you should use them. Next, you should really always try to treat your other coworkers as if they are in the same office. What do I mean by that? Well, if you're in a situation where you would have normally just walked over to your coworker's office or cube and had a conversation about something, do the same thing when you're remote. Again, via IM or any other electronic means, or pick up the phone. This is the next piece of advice that I think is very important, is know when electronic communications cease to be effective and when it's time to just pick up the phone and have a conversation or schedule a conference call. Sometimes so much gets lost in translation in other media. I once heard someone say that, if you're using email to communicate, if you're on the third reply to an email chain, that it might be time to have a conversation. That's probably pretty good advice. The next thing is, when it comes to that phone conversation, how should you be? I find it very interesting that when we're meeting with folks in person, that very often, either before, after, or even during the conversation, there's always going to be some chit-chat, some personal conversation, getting to know each other better. But when it's a phone conversation, it tends to be get on the call, jump right into it, get everything resolved, and then get off the phone. And I think that it's important to continue to try to build those relationships on the phone. So maybe start your conversation with asking how the person is, or what's new in their geography, or whatever kind of questions you might ask. Or you could do this at the end of the conversation, or find ways to intertwine personal conversation throughout the call. I think you'll find that it helps build relationships, and it just makes it that much more easy to talk to one another. So, I don't think there's any silver bullet, but I think if we all recognize that it is a privilege for us to be able to work remotely where we happen to be at, and so it's therefore our responsibility to do our best to stay engaged in the organization. And then I think it works out very, very well. The last point is, when you do have those opportunities to meet face-to-face, that you take the fullest advantage of it. If you happen to find yourself in one of the offices where there are others, or in a town where there's other people, trying to make an opportunity, the time to get together for a cup of coffee or lunch or even dinner is a nice touch. Some of our folks live in the same town as other people. So again, trying to find those occasions where you can maybe get together in person. And finally, we are going to make an effort, hopefully late in 2017, to get all of the Greenstone employees together at the same place at the same time, to have some large group meetings, as well as the opportunity to break out into your individual teams. I think that at the end, there's still something to be said for that personal, in-person contact. So hopefully you found some of these tips helpful. If you have any of your own tips or ideas, I'd love to hear about them. Shoot me an email, and I can always either compile them for a future Hammer Time episode or send out an email to the whole group. Until next episode, have a great week.